Fathers and sons, stand fast in the way of truth. And then it's fathers and sons, hold fast in a broken world. The number is 1-800-571-2755. We have a few more minutes, and Mike is on the line with us. Hi there, Mike.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing, now you're a dad. You're a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Doug.
I'm a stepdad.
You're a stepdad. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that you're wondering in terms of how to mentor or teach your stepson?
Well, it's my question is related to that, but it's on a church level. My church that I'm attending is starting up a young men's ministry, and I know the need for it, because you had mentioned that that the men have kind of usurped their role. They stepped out, and what I'm seeing is, a lot of non-involvement.
Mm.
In all areas of their life, it seems like, at least when it comes to spiritual things, and so it leads me to the question of what are the key components that you think that would be necessary for a church to run a successful young men's ministry?
Well, I would go back to the Word of God. It's a good question, Mike. I would go back to what Paul says in Titus chapter 1, verse 8, that we need to train church leaders, and that, I think, should be the goal in any men's ministries. We're training church leaders. We're training leaders for the home. We're training leaders in the workplace. We're training leaders in the military. We're training leaders in culture. And Paul says, teach them to be self-controlled, to be upright, to be holy, and to be disciplined. All the things we as men aren't naturally. We're the opposite of that. We're out of control. We lack discipline. We don't want to live upright lives. Our minds are in the gutter naturally in our fallen state. We don't have holy thoughts. We have unholy thoughts. So we have to train our young men, and the way we do that is, first of all, have those goals in mind, high goals that will equip our young men to be leaders in all of those areas of life. Most importantly, the home, the church, workplace, culture in general. But we have to teach our sons self-control. There's so much in the world that we have constructed for ourselves that surrounds us and that surrounds this generation of young men, that's designed to let them, let it all hang out, to be out of control, and to live for immediate gratification, fulfill desires right now, and not to think about the long-term effects. I mean, this is fundamental in economics. You've got a good economist and a bad economist. The good economist thinks about the long-term effects of things. A bad economist thinks about the seen results that we can have right now. That's Proverbs all over again. That's the problem with our own hearts and with our own words and deeds as adult men, Mike. And it's the problem that we pass on most easily to our sons. They pick up on our vices a lot more quickly than they pick up on our virtues.
Mm. Mike, thank you so much for the call. We're going to talk a little bit more about leadership. We've only got a few minutes left. We'll send you a copy of the book as well. Douglas, what about this idea of people meeting these kids, these boys, where they are at and take them to where they need to go? In other words, a lot of kids these days. So, what if there are sports? What if there are a group of kids that are really big into basketball or
Sure.
hockey or whatever the case may be? How do we get onto their turf? Are you asking? Do we gather them together on the couch and sit next to each other and read through the devotionals, or do we get out there on the ball court or get out on a bike ride? How is it best to engage these kids where they're at right now?
Yeah, I think there are various approaches. You mentioned sports, and of course I talk quite a bit about sports in here. I have sons that are athletes, and a recent study of college athletes found that in moral reasoning, and it was done over several decades, moral reasoning, that college students who were athletes ranked much lower on the series of questions on moral reasoning than those who were non-athletes. So I think there has to be a sense right up front that, if a person approaches athletics and the ball field or the swimming pool or whatever it is, with the idea that, hey, this is inherently going to make my son self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. We're in for a world of hurt if that's the case, because there are built-in things in sports that feed men's pride and men's sense of using their strength for vainglory to bring pride in themselves. But on the other hand, there are very good disciplines that can be learned in sports. We just have to keep it in tension, and really, we have to help our sons do that. So, getting together and having some vigorous, a retreat, fathers and sons retreat, where you're doing some vigorous, fun activities together, is a very good opener. It buys you their attention. It buys you a hearing from those young men. I do things with my older sons that, frankly, I feel like I'm too old for now, but I do them with them because I want to be there. I want to then, after I wipe the sweat off my brow, I want to be able to sit down and unpack this and be intentional about pointing them to Christ.
Mm-hmm. All right, Douglas Bond, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your books. The books are Fathers and Sons Hold Fast in a Broken World. That's actually second in the series. The first one is Fathers and Sons Stand Fast in the Way of Truth. All of the information to get a copy of these resources is on our website at alongthewayradio.com, alongthewayradio.com, and a link to all the information from Douglas Bond. Douglas, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks
Stephanie.
for
I've enjoyed being here.
Thank you. Well, as we wrap up, as a single mom, I just want to say it's been so amazing to me, and I hope that you've really gotten some things out of today's show. We talked about girls, teenage girls, and all the strange things that go on, and now talking about boys and raising boys. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I find encouragement in is to be a dad or to be a mom, either way, means to live the life, walk the walk. The one thing that kids pick up on the most is when we kind of approach this attitude of do as I say, not as I do. When we come from a place of understanding, compassion, love, discipline, and structure, we are going to, by default in our lives, raise children with the same character attributes. That's just my opinion. And we'll talk about this more at a later date. Coming up tomorrow, you have a guest host. Susie Larson is coming in talking about resting in God's love. Isn't that going to be wonderful? And then on Wednesday, talking about prayer. Oh, it's going to be good stuff. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you and love you. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow on Along the Way on the Faith Radio Network.
The views expressed on this program do not necessarily bear the endorsement or reflect the opinion of Along the Way, its host, or the Northwestern Radio Network. Thanks for listening.